Are we? Is it on? Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry. Welcome to the FALA Upcast. Welcome to the FALA Upcast, a bi-monthly podcast where we watch movies and talk about them. I'm your host, Elizabeth, and today's guests are Mr. Casady.
Hi. It's glad to be here. Love 'tis the season to talk about movies.
And Brenly.
Hi.
Okay, so in today's episode, we're reviewing A Christmas Prince. We really have like the spirit of the season happening here. Blood, sweat, and tears went into this. But specifically, we're reviewing A Christmas Prince, The Royal Wedding, a 2018 Netflix original. So this is actually the second movie in the Christmas Prince cinematic universe, but I wanted to watch this one because on the poster, she's wearing Converse with her wedding gown, and I couldn't handle it. I needed to watch it. But don't worry, you don't need to watch the first movie because within the dialogue of the first 15 minutes of this movie, they recap everything that happened in the prior movie. All you need to know is that an American blogger named Amber sneaks into the royal palace of Aldovia and falls in love with Prince Richard. The prince's cousin, Simon, tries to take the crown, but Richard becomes king anyways, and basically everything important in Aldovia happens on Christmas, and nothing happens the other 364 days of the year. Is the gist. So I'm gonna give a synopsis of this movie. Synopsis, okay. Yeah. So the plot is a little bit thicker than the first movie. The first movie is basically like non-essential. But after a year after Amber had helped Richard secure the crown, the two are set to tie the knot in a royal Christmas wedding. But things become complicated as Richard becomes increasingly busy and Amber begins to question if she's cut out to be part of the royal family. On top of this, the country of Aldovia is rapidly losing money. And many Aldovians face unemployment and poverty. Unions are formed and workers are being extremely underpaid. The royal family struggles to understand why Aldovia's economy is crashing when it should be thriving. Amber and her friends conduct an investigation and find Lord Leopold guilty of embezzlement. And then they give the country a Christmas bonus. Like everyone gets a Christmas bonus, and then they get married and it's over and that's it. So, first impressions. Let's just hear your guys' thoughts.
I'm curious how many times was this everybody else's first time viewing this film?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Yeah, because it was number 3 for me. And yeah, I mean, like this going back to my first impressions. Like the first time I saw this, I remember this thinking, like, what did I just watch? And then on repeated viewings, you start to really notice the nuance of the filmmaking that really brings out the subtlety of the performances and the thematic elements of it really strong. No, this movie is pretty much garbage. It's like a Netflix budgeted Hallmark film. Really, everything about it just stands out as bland and uneventful. That's my impression.
I agree. It was basically like the Disney knockoff Cinderella's, but a knockoff of that, and didn't even involve Cinderella. The lights went off.
No. You saw them. We had lights, and you saw them, and it's on camera, and we have footage of it, and that's all that counts. Deep breaths.
They heard us disparaging this film, and they took away the Christmas cheer. Is what happened.
We had lights. Okay. I think the first thing I noticed about this movie was just they have to be using iMovie or some other free editing software because they used PowerPoint transitions like the diamonds and the little just everything that they did. The editing that went into the effort they put into editing this movie is just non-existent.
The movie starts with 7 or 8 back-to-back shots of stock footage flyovers of New York and then planes. And then occasionally here's a shot of the leads just walking down a street. But yeah, it's all put together in such a way where it's this is a highlight reel of it felt like a trailer house edited the film. There's no art to it. There's no pace. It was just poorly cut together.
It's definitely a Netflix original. Without a doubt. It's obvious.
I am so curious because I don't think Netflix has like made like a good movie. Like I can't think of any Netflix movies that I've been like impressed by. But they make like these amazing TV shows. Like Netflix has made like some of the like most impressive TV shows. But every time they try to make a movie, I don't know if it's like purposeful, like they know it's going to get viewed anyway and it's their own site so they can just push whatever. But I can't think of a single like notable movie that Netflix has made.
I mean, Christmas Prince 3 is I think where it all turns around, really. But no, yeah, I mean, I'd agree on that. Like the problem with Netflix is the good movies they do put out are like, they put out like Alfonso Cuarón's Roma when that dropped, but that was a movie that was made and then Netflix has picked up distribution for it.
Right, they just like gave money and like
it's like, hey, we'll put it out and distribute it outside of theaters. Like that's it. But yeah, everything else they've made, including the Christmas Prince 2, is dubious in quality.
And then when you go on the Netflix site to look for a Christmas Prince, it is a genre. Like Royal Christmas is a genre. Like you have like a prince for Christmas, like something about like princesses in Christmas. Like it is like a booming market apparently. Like people want to see royal people have Christmas. I don't know.
I don't understand why it was called The Royal Prince when you barely saw him.
And he was only a prince for the first movie. They should have thought that through.
This is correct because he went through the spoiler alert for the first film. He went through the coronation in the first film, just barely, but he went through it. And so yeah, it should be Christmas King would be a more inventive title, and then like the final one would be like the Christmas Queen, and then because it focuses on her pregnancy. Spoiler alert, I guess.
Yeah. And does she like go into labor at Christmas?
Yes, and a lot of the back third of that film, we're going to talk about too, I promise, but like a lot of the back third of that film is like timed around her going into labor specifically. And it's very strange because the plot just happens to resolve itself right up to the moment of like, oh, her actually giving birth. And you're like, it's very strange how this all syncs up. But yeah, I guess that's the Christmas magic really at work is what.
I am just like, Aldovia in itself is just the funniest concept in general. So like the filming site for this castle was Romania, and we have this vague idea that it's somewhere in Europe, but like they have very British accents. Like they are British accents. Like it is British people. I think it is meant to be like the royal family. Like some Meghan Markle type vibes. I think that's what they were going for. But yeah, it's just, I feel like they could have just like picked a country or just like, I don't know what they wanted to do with that. But I think the fact that they made a little country, it's not even little. I think you should talk about the size of Aldovia.
We're okay. I mean, so I'm not going to, okay, look, you can watch. So it is revealed, plot twist of the century is revealed in the third Christmas Prince film, The Royal Baby, which is, they show a map of Aldovia. And yeah, it's very strange because all of the accents are like the most posh, like British, clearly Buckingham Palace voices that you could possibly have out of an English actor. And the problem you get into is, you're like, oh, it's like this tiny little country. And you're like, fine. It's like, it's believable. Sure, this like some... The map in the third film is like most of Eastern Europe. It is massive, massive, because they mention it has 7 provinces. And you're like, okay, 7 provinces, maybe this way. No, it's like actual 7 country-sized provinces. It's obscene, the size of this country. And so you take into the events of this film with the poverty and the working class struggles. And then you're like, so this king, I guess, rules over a kingdom of 7 provinces in the year of our Lord 2018. Okay.
Also, the size, because I was thinking, like, okay, maybe this is one of those, like, weird little countries that just has, like, 100, 200 people, like, I don't know, just, like, a couple thousand, like, a small little country. And, like, the the fact that you say that makes their actual wedding itself like so much more confusing, because there was 30 people in that church and it wasn't televised. There was no crowds outside. Like you couldn't even like enter like 100-mile radius of like the chapel when an actual royal wedding happens. Like, it is on every single TV channel. Like, that church is packed. There is like masses of like thousands of people outside. There was just 30 people in the church.
Yeah, and if they're going for England, that's one of the cardinal sins of this film is like the royal wedding and the royal baby in England. Like, the royal family is a huge deal, and like this movie tries to comment on like the loss of individuality or whatever, and like the press and the tabloid covering the royal family. But like, if you're saying like, if you're trying to go for it, it's like, oh, okay, well, England, it's Great Britain, it's the United Kingdom, so it's got provinces. So does Moldova. I don't know. This has provinces too. And then that's fine, all well and good. You want to have a fairy tale wedding, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, just watch the third movie. Look for the map. You can even probably find the map online. It's obscene how large of a country it actually is.
Can we like discuss how tacky and awful this wedding was too? Like, the amount of girls wearing white dresses at this poor girl's wedding. Like, the nerve to show up to a royal wedding in a white dress. Like, I couldn't get over that. I had to pause it. I had to let it sink in. I don't know. I was like, the wedding was just ugly. Like, it was like not a like beautiful, stunning fairy tale wedding, I guess, in my opinion. Like,
it was something. And like, the bride, she gives me pick me vibes. I'm like not even gonna lie. The way she started out the movie, like with her little speech, I was like, oh no.
Her Converse with her dress, her bedazzled sneakers. And that's like set up, like that's her thing. Like, she wears Converse.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and like the only reason that happens is because she suddenly decides to stand up for herself and no longer listen to the best character in the film, Sahil, yes. Who is just a wonderful performance and is clearly like the only person in the film, besides Simon probably, who knew the exact type of movie they were making and were just like, I'm going to make this something for my highlight reel. I'm not going to just make this a Hallmark movie. I'm going to like full send it, and bless him, Sahil delivers the performance of a lifetime as the crazed wedding planner. Awesome.
He like talks exclusively in the third person throughout the entire film. And honestly, like, the wedding dress he made for her was like objectively better than the one she wore. Like, I was like, okay, maybe she wants something like really like understated, something maybe like something like boho. Like,
she wears a jacket basically.
It like looks like a little Sue Sylvester like zip up tracksuit. Like, that's what her wedding gown looks like. It is ugly. It's not like cute or anything. I don't know. Sahil deserved better. Simon deserved better.
They carried the whole movie.
I love Simon with my whole heart. I think maybe the movie would be more watchable if Simon like had played the prince, because the actor who plays the prince doesn't emote like whatsoever.
Oh my god.
Like,
I found it kind of hilarious. So speaking of the not emoting, so when they have to take the royal portrait and they're like giving the what was our lead's name?
Amber.
Amber. They're giving Amber a hard time because she won't take off like the pendant necklace that has her deceased mom's like picture in it. And the advice they give to him, to the king, is, King Richard, you need to look powerful. You need to look stern and exert control. And like, but that's his look the entire film. At no point does he ever look joyful or have glee. He always looks stern and controlling. And so it's like, you need to puff up your chest. And like, it didn't work because he already was. And you're like, oh, okay. But again, that was Sahil carrying that scene.
Speaking of Amber and her like little locket, she like makes it into a thing like, I can't wear my necklace in the portrait. Like, you can't just like have there's like two conflicts of the movie basically. Like, first conflict is she feels like she's losing like identity of self. You know, she feels like, oh my god, I'm joining this royal family, they're controlling me, like I can't like make even these like little choices about my life. Which could be taken like that is like an issue, you know what I mean? Like if you look at Spencer, like the recent like Kristen Stewart movie, it like dives into like how like being in the royal family, being in that public eye, like having your image like very tightly controlled, like takes a toll on the mental state of a person. Like you could go about that in a way that is like serious, but you juxtapose like her not being able to be a blogger with the entire country of Altovia facing unemployment and poverty. Like they can't like afford to have a good Christmas. Like these people are like rioting, they're forming unions. Like there is civil unrest in Altovia.
When the theater techs go on strike in the middle of King Richard's younger sister rehearsing their little sweet Christmas play. And they just like, all the lights turn off, like, what's happening? It's like, oh, the union's gone on strike. They've chosen this. Christmas is canceled this year. And comically, they padlock and chain the door to the theater.
That was in my
notes.
That
was kind of funny.
They make the union workers seem so villainous.
It's this anti-union film. It's nuts.
How dare they want a livable wage? Like, Princess Emily wanted to be in a play. She wanted to kiss her crush. And how dare they, strike for their rights and their, basic fair pay.
And that's the main conflict for, a good chunk of the movie is, oh, I can't be in the play because these workers want livable wages and better ways of life. Ah, these poor.
And they really, pull out, she's in the middle of rehearsing the scene. The entire theater goes dark. They turn off everything, and then they put on, there's this close-up shot, and it's filmed all hauntingly. It's slanted, the frame is slanted, and they're putting on this huge chain and locking up the theater.
And she's it really dramatic, and the actors did not fill their roles. I did not find it very good.
Yeah, they're like, oh shoot, yeah, I can't do this whole nightmare thing. Yeah, it's like, oh, I can't do this. It's like, can you fix the... And then the thing is like, can we fix the country not because the people need better? No, it's can we fix the country in time for me to do my play?
Which brings me to Emily. We need to discuss Emily because this girl is so posh and I think she has probably one of the strongest accents.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the actress's natural accent or if she's doing it, but she is oh my god, she is possibly my favorite character of all time. Not even within this cinematic universe.
Can you run down her skill sets that we are
just in general, because she's just casually an expert hacker and incredibly talented archer. There is no explanation for where she got her computer hacking skills from, because her parents, the royal family, obviously would not approve of that, but she's like I'm in. She does the whole little typing thing. She's like oh, this password won't work, wait I got it, I'm in. It's so comical, and she's an archer, and she's just this little girl. She's probably 12.
She has my favorite nickname in the film, which when Simon walks in is just like, how's it going, Mr. Robot? More like Mr. Slowbot. It's pretty good. It's a great nickname.
I can't stop thinking about how they just I just know the writers were in there. They're like, okay, but how do we make a Mr. Robot reference? And I'm honestly convinced that they wanted Rami Malek to play Simon. I feel that in my heart and bones, I can tell what they were thinking. They wanted Rami Malek there, and they couldn't have him. And they were sad about it. I'm just imagining the writers of A Christmas Prince are just avid Mr. Robot fans.
He probably would have been shooting Bohemian Rhapsody at the time.
Oh yeah, that's the only thing stopping Rami Malek from
two scripts came across the desk: the Christmas Prince, and this biopic about Queen and Freddie Mercury. And he had the tough choice of, you know what, I think I'm gonna go for this Queen one, Christmas Prince. Though I'm gonna pass it on to my buddy here. You can play Simon.
So good. Oh my god.
Yeah, she is amazing. She does her accent's like Veruca Salt from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's so posh and so privileged. It's insane.
So funny. And then within the first movie, there was this conflict of the the King Richard, he's like actually adopted. So like how can he like inherit the bloodline? And just like casually, like they just like casually mention, oh yeah, like women just like can't be queens. And like Emily has like no beef about that. Like she like is very much
resigned.
Like she just doesn't care. Like she's like, oh yeah, like I'm never gonna have like any like political power, but like whatevs, I can do my little Archer thing.
Okay. How much political power does the king have? Because in the second movie, it is less clear. In the first film, the king amends the Constitution to say that, yes, his adopted child can be king and kind of throw out that entire rule about bloodline. But not like the part where women can't be it. Like, he changes everything but that.
He's like, adoptions? Great.
Yes.
Women? No.
No, don't stand that. But then in the second film, so King Richard has to meet with like 7 people, and almost comically every time Amber wants to do something, he's called away to meet with somebody. But that's the only he's only called away at that time when they have to do something. There
is a character, he doesn't even have a name, but he just his only job is to run into the room and be like, King Richard, you are needed.
He's awesome.
He is so stressed. Like, he's always covered in sweat. Yes. Like he's always like,
it's like the Minister of Economic Affairs needs to meet with you. So there's like the minister, there's also the Prime Minister. So they have a Prime Minister, a Minister of Economic Affairs. They have like 4 other people. And I'm like, so what does the king do? Because it seems like they have an elected body. So if this is like the royal family, it's functionally just like, oh, we're here for public appearances, whatever. But then like, so is King, but then King Richard's like, it's my policies are being put into place and I don't know why they're not working. And every time it's like, the country's losing money and I don't know why. And I'm like it's a business. It's a country. It's incredible. Like,
I have no idea.
I don't understand
and like, who was Lord Leopold? Like,
I was gonna mention that. I was really confused.
I thought he was an uncle, but like,
I thought he was someone's dad. I just kind of guessed.
Well, I'm assuming like Lord Simon is like a cousin, but I don't think Leopold is his father. I don't think
it's not his father, because like he says like, oh, he worked with his father and like gave up implementing this change because he felt like he couldn't do it without his father. So they called him in and was like, fix the country. And you're like, and they just give it to this guy who clearly is going to be, spoil it, the villain, because he's the sole person handling the economic affairs. And so if you're like, we're going to launch an investigation, which he says at one point, into how this is going wrong, it's like, it has to be the person who's handling the economic affairs, because that's what's going.
The whole like thing where they hack into this like website, it's like
all the countries. It's on Wikipedia.
Into the website of like
companies.
It's just like the Aldovia website for economic affairs, and then like in massive text, it's like minus like huge
amounts of money. It's pie charts.
that Lord Leopold just took out, and like, what is he gaining from that? Because it is already like evidently clear that like the royal family is like rich. Like they're rich. They don't need to be extracting large amount of money or like embezzling from their country.
So here's the okay. Have both of you, we're familiar with government and economics to some degree, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So the vibe I got from this entire film was Aldovia is a monarchy ruled by a king who has unprecedented power to some degree. It's a massive country, has a massive GDP. And because they say like, oh, we're doing work programs and we're paying work programs to industrialize and bring the country into the 21st century. Like that's their entire thing, which by the way, the country is already very posh and everybody that we see in the crowd shots in the public are already clearly in the 21st century. Neither here nor there. My understanding is Aldovia has nationalized their economy because they're paying workers. Like the royal family pays the workers, or the government pays the workers. So then how could Lord Leopold open up a shell company, which is a very like capitalist system thing you can do, buy up a bunch of contracts which wouldn't exist in a nationalized economy, and then like siphon off money? If in a nationalized economy, all of the money goes to the government. So like how could a third party just steal money?
They make it seem like Aldovia's entire economy is like just like one bank account.
It's a bank account that you can and like one factory.
You could just like take out like oh yeah, I'm just gonna like withdraw like $2 billion
What?
from Aldovia.
What was the final count on the little spreadsheet they printed out that just says total in bank account? It was like cash on hand. It's like €2,993,000,000
It was something
euro or something.
I think it was 2 billion.
It's
I'm
like
pretty sure.
It's almost like 3 billion euro.
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea what was happening with that. And then throughout the whole movie, they have this like little bit about like oh, we'll send you to the dungeons. No, we don't have dungeons. And then at the very end, like Lord Leopold, he's like found guilty of like embezzling, and like basically like it's like at the end of a Scooby-Doo episode, like they like come and like grab his arms. They're like, you're going to the dungeon. He's like, they have a dungeon. She's like, yeah, we have a dungeon. Like, what is the government system of Aldovia? Like,
it's like capital punishment against your will, monarchy with absolute power, nationalized industry, but also like a little bit of capitalism unregulated going on in there.
I also you were talking about like how they wanted to like bring Aldovia into the 21st century, but another thing is like they kept talking about like, oh, we got to like channel money back into Aldovia. So it's all about like, I think the whole embezzlement scheme was that like their initiative was to, instead of like buying from outside sources, like keeping things internal so that more money goes to like independent small businesses.
Yeah.
And that like by embezzling, like this guy created like this company that would just basically like buy out smaller businesses or something, like so that
I think they're buying contracts for like production and stuff. So it's like, so they go as the lowest bidder, they get paid the money and then just do nothing.
Yeah, like I don't know. It was like incredibly convoluted, and like about the 21st century thing, like that brings me to the palace itself, which is very pretty, and they get lots of shots of this palace.
It looks like a bed and breakfast from the
I
outside.
thought it was very pretty. You can go there and like take pictures on site, which I think is really funny. I like spent quite a few hours just looking at like pictures of people that do their little photo shoots there. But like this house, like they just didn't take down like any of the security cameras that like were in the shots, which like obviously like they'd have security cameras, but it's so off-putting to see this like 16th century like 17th century like castle in like the middle of the woods, and then just see like a massive like white like security camera from like 2010 just like in the corner.
Yeah.
And like also the light switches, I don't know why this bothered me so much, but the light switches in that house are like massive. They're these massive light switches, and normally in like a really fancy place, like they make the light switches look fancy, but they're just like these massive like ugly light switches, and that's all I could focus on in so many scenes. I was like, put that thing away. Like, how can you be having an argument when that ugly little light switch is behind you?
It's also like the smallest kitchen I've ever seen in a castle.
Oh my god, yeah, that was kind of weird.
It's like one chef, she's just doing everything.
Hey, it's one chef, and also Amber's dad, who is this awesome New York diner owner. It was just like, hey, why can't we have the kids come around for Christmas to make cookies? And like that's his entire thing is just.
And then he's like, I spent all night cleaning this kitchen. And like, where are the staff? Because we see people like pacing behind them.
She tells him to wash the dishes, and it's like, I'm sorry, what? Okay, that's
I feel like they forget that they're like literally royals. Like they can do basically anything. Like, and the thing is, like, they'll be having like a conversation, and in the background you'll just see like a staff member like walking so fast. Like the extras they hired for this movie it's just hilarious.
All the press hold their cameras in the most uncomfortable positions, like they've never held a camera before, and none of the extras know anything that's going on. It's awesome.
It is the little things that like really make this movie magical, because there's like multiple scenes where Amber is taking pictures with her fingers entirely covering the camera lens.
Yes.
Entirely covering the camera. She's like, oh, pose. Like her hand is like over it.
And then audibly, it's not like, oh, you can pass off it. She took it audibly plays like the shutter sound on her iPhone.
And it's like so clearly like a sound effect that they added in afterwards. Like it is not like taking like space within the movie. It's incredible. Oh my God. And also, I am like 80% sure that I saw studio lights in the background of some of the shots. Like it's entirely possible. I feel it. They are either studio lights or more security cameras. I can't tell which.
They announced and shot and post-production to this film in less than a year. So it's entirely possible. That's why it's also so boilerplate and probably has stock photos of. I don't think they filmed anything in New York, for sure.
He definitely did not.
I also I can't get over it. Was like the small things that drove me crazy, like the fact that their royal limos were just like a bunch of like black cars, and there wasn't even like consistency. Like one was like a BMW, one was like
they're all like rental cars from the airport.
They were literally,
she landed at.
She's like, oh, the royal limos, and it's like a little black BMW. My mom owns a white version of that car. Like, should I start calling it the royal limo? Like,
yes, I think you said 100%.
I couldn't handle it. Oh my god. And I just want to know, like, who was your guys' favorite characters? Who's your favorite character in the movie?
I have to think this. They're probably the horse in that one scene.
Who?
The horse.
The horse?
There was
Which
that
scene in particular? Is it the one who he's riding to the cottage to like come apologize to her, but not really, and then this be like, we have to go?
He like Loki like manipulated her and like gaslit her in that one scene. It's
like the massive black horse that he like rides in on.
or the two horses that they go carriage sledding to find that ugly tree.
And that scene was so weird. I was like really like so confused because she was like, oh, this isn't cone enough for me, and then she goes and she picks this like weird shaped tree that has got like scoliosis in 5 different spots. And then she goes, it's unique. It's not. It's probably dead.
That is like exactly what my dad did this year. Like, he and my mom spent like an hour in the woods, and he was like, Kathy, I found the perfect tree. And it is the ugliest thing I have ever seen. It looks almost exactly like that one. Like, it's just like bald in multiple spots.
I think they were going for like a reference to like Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown, or something, where it's just like, oh, here's a sad little. I don't know. Like, there's like, wow, that's an ugly tree. It's like, it's unique, and it's never discussed again. Never comes back.
I also want to talk about like some of the scenes where they were just like out in the woods in the snow looked like so horrifying. Like, actually, I think, okay, so from the few scenes that I've seen from the first movie, they have this like warm color on them, like this warm filter, and like that is very normal for like Hallmark adjacent movies. Like, they put this like orangey tint over everything, making it seem like warm and cozy and stuff. They did not do that for this movie. In fact, I would even go as far as to say like they like did something with the lighting or the editing where it looks so cold. Like, it is almost like blue twinged. Like, I was like getting like Twilight vibes sometimes when they were in the woods, and I was like, it looks frigid, not cozy at all, like harrowing.
I mean, just that scene where he's riding the horse to the cottage, it's like, it looks like it's either 5 a.m. or because it has that, like you said, that blue kind of just, it's so cold, and like I never got any Christmas or holiday warmth from this film in any capacity. The closest was probably the shot of like the hot dog that the dad makes once. I'm like, oh, that's warm and comforting. They have breakfast that one time and then nothing else. Yeah.
It's like, consistently everything is so cool toned and like so just, it doesn't look fun or cozy or like magical at all. Like, if you're gonna commit to the cheesy Christmas Hallmark vibes, like, you have to like make choices. You can't just like talk about unions and then have everything be like blue and cold and frigid.
I just remembered, did anybody remember what the church set looked like for the actual wedding? The interior of that church is like a cathedral. It's just all stone wall and bare. There's like a single red rug. And then it is like the ugliest, most set-looking church interior I've ever seen.
I am also like so positive in my heart that I have seen that same like shot of the outside of the church in like 20 other things. Like, it looks so just generic, and also like you would think that they would like have they'd have crowds outside. I just can't get over that. There was 30 people in that church, which was insane. Like, just literally insane. I couldn't handle it. And like, I just this is so off topic, but like in my notes I just have like Simon, and like out of nowhere, like they keep having like these like very like old school like vibes, and then he'll just mention like cryptocurrency, Like he like tries to get King Richard to join his little cryptocurrency MLM.
Yo, bro, I just need access. It's like, yo, bro, I just need access to like the royal bank account or whatever. I can turn this around.
Like normally, if they're like going for like fairy tale, like like old time, like old school, like classic Christmas thing, this like cryptocurrency.
And this is 3
union.
This is 3 years ago. That's pretty like ahead of the curve on the crypto bro stereotype too.
They were trying to get everyone into the 21st century, but like if the country already was like basically it was only like the government. Or like I was thinking
the
about
fact
like,
that they have a monarchy. It's like we're gonna go in the 21st century. We're gonna disassemble. We're just gonna like take apart the monarchy and give the power back to the people. That would be 21st century. But
I like. Oh my god.
My god, that one scene when she went to the bar.
Oh,
that
yes.
made me like icky for some reason.
I hate the fact that by the end of that conversation, the dude who got fired and his life got turned upside down was like, "Oh yeah, this is chill. Anyways, follow me. There's a back way out of here. Don't worry, we'll be safe."
I thought Simon let them out.
No, so it was. So Simon was there. He came to like rescue them, but like the dude they came to see was also like, "Oh, there's a back way out." He was their friend all of a sudden. And he was also the one at the end who was like sitting with his wife on a couch and watching TV for some reason. And he's like, "Oh, it's a Christmas miracle. I'm getting paid again."
No, and she was like, I
Weird.
can't be seen here. And she wears these like huge sunglasses.
And then takes them off
and
immediately.
then, like, yeah, the second she has to like talk to someone, she's like, let me just like take off my
all
disguise.
dramatic for no reason.
I couldn't take it. And
Yeah, like Simon's probably my favorite character other than Amber's dad, because Amber's dad just has the energy of somebody who walked on set, has no idea what movie he's in, and like when he's wandering around screaming her name through the hallways, Scooby-Doo style, it's just like, "Amber, where are you?" It's like, "Hey, kiddo!" Like it's so good. And the gruff New Yorker, this like standing out with these posh like Moldovan English people. Oh, this made my heart flutter whenever he was on screen.
Speaking of the search for Amber, when she like runs away to some place that I'm assuming was like talked about in the first movie, but we just see her like in a little cabin in the woods with no explanation. But they like go out, like this courtyard is like they use it like every 2 minutes. We get like a courtyard shot, and this is the ugliest courtyard I have ever seen in my life. Like normally it'll be like some like grand lawn, you know, like plants everywhere, you know, statues, something like that. And it's literally just like 4 rectangular hedges. They're not even like sculpted fancy, and that's it.
And some like Amazon fairy lights hanging overhead. It's pretty good.
Oh, are we talking about like that arch with like the lights that are so ugly? Like they literally look like LED lights, LED strip lights on the thing, and I'm like, how do you need to like bring this in the 21st century? Like you are too far here.
I think they spent a lot of money shooting at this castle, like getting the permit, and there's like, it adds production value. We don't have to add anything else. Here's some Christmas decorations from Kohl's. I don't know.
I didn't even know what to say about that. And then they made all this big deal about the Christmas tree, and we never see the Christmas tree except for when she is like doing her investigation on her laptop. She's surrounded by her friends. There's like a Christmas tree in the background, but it's not the Christmas tree they picked out. Like there are multiple other Christmas trees in the palace that are like very nice looking.
During that scene, can we just highlight the fact that when the woman who's not Sigourney Weaver but kind of looks like Sigourney Weaver is like the head of security or press person, she comes in and she notices them on the computer. She's like, "Oh, Emily, what are you doing there?" And it cuts back, and like I'm assuming they were supposed to like visual effects a shot on the screen of like the hacking she was doing, but they didn't. So it's just a black screen in front of her. She's like, she leans over and she's like, "Oh, I wasn't doing anything. I was just showing my new games." And she swipes over to another window. That's like the stupid Knights game. But she wouldn't have to sweep. There was nothing on the screen. That you do that when it's incriminating. Be like, oh, nothing. I was doing this instead. You switch tabs. That bothered me.
The screen was just black.
The screen was black, and then she swipes to something else. Like, I was doing nothing. Check out this game. The screen wasn't off. What are you talking about? It's like, what are you doing?
Also, the fact that she was just like sitting in a room, like right,
in
like
the middle
in a
of the room.
hallway.
Yeah, there is a doorway behind her.
There's directly behind
There are
her.
characters entering and leaving the scene.
She's not like sitting in like a chair in a corner. She's not like in like a closed room. Like it's like open floor plan. Like anybody could walk in.
And her room was so empty. I don't remember there being much in that room other than her
and her like
wheelchair just in the middle.
Her screen was just like facing the hallway where anyone could like look in and see her like hacking away.
But like, how did a 12-year-old like figure out the problem before the government did? Like, why did they investigate?
And then they say it's Amber who did it. They're like, oh, thanks to you, Amber, you saved us all. And you're like, no, okay, it was the 12-year-old sister who did all the hacking. And also, like, the cousin that you've all been dumping on this entire movie was the one who's like, oh, I've done nefarious stuff. This is how I would do it. Oh, yep, totally makes sense. He was the one who did, like, all the heavy lifting with her. And they're like, Amber, you got to come back with me. Thanks to you, we figured out what happened.
In fact, like, while Emily is, like, hacking away, investigating with Simon, Amber and her friends have a bachelorette party, and I was expecting like, oh my god, like you're getting married to like someone, you're not like a crazy bachelorette party. Their bachelorette party is literally just painting their friends' toenails. Like that is it, and we get like a close-up shot of
drinking
his foot.
Some wine too. They had some wine, but that was it.
I think everything else was against protocol, so they was trying to keep it, on the low down.
Like on the low, yeah. And then they drink like the wine out of those like metal gauntlets, like they're living in the 12th century.
The captions on Netflix every time they clank those together says glasses clanking, and I'm like, those are metal. What are you doing?
They are literally metal gauntlets, like you would like. It is so like medieval, and I just couldn't handle it because they're doing it with these gaudy medieval glasses, and they just have their little OPI nail polish, and they're like, it's just the mixing of the centuries.
The fact that her friends just unannouncedly are able to show up and get past security and show up at the castle to be like, we're going to attend your wedding now. Okay.
The fact that people are just sneaking in general, like Simon walks in, they're like, Simon, how did you get here?
The reaction shots, every single person who had a significant role in the first film gets a slow zoom on their faces when he enters the room to a music sting. And then there's like, you try to take the crown. He's like, yeah, sorry about that. Anyways, can you forgive me? And they're like, no. And then he saves the day.
But then they let him stay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was confusing to me.
Yeah.
Like, if you hate him so much, why is he still there?
It was like the first like 5 minutes, and I had not watched the first movie, so this man comes in, everyone's having these extreme reactions. I like pause it. I'm like, I need to Google who Simon is. But then like the king literally like delivers like all within 2 seconds. He's like, last Christmas you tried to steal the crown from me, Simon, but we're cousins. And we're family, so you can stay here.
Yeah.
It's like there was like no need for the first movie to have happened, like whatsoever. Oh my god.
Yeah, like that first film is something else, especially like, and that's the other thing too. Is Simon has this like redemption in this film, and he's like, oh, he's not the bad guy. And they have a couple red herrings. Like the multi-level marketing scheme is clearly a red herring of like, oh, he's draining the money. But like even in the first film, he's not a villain. He just points out like, yeah, this guy technically is not part of the throne. He's adopted. I'm next in line. Let's go by the law. And then everybody's like, he's the villain. And you're like, oh, okay. So it makes Simon is best boy, and we stand Simon on this podcast.
I do love Simon. I thought he was really funny. He had just like so many moments of like they make him seem so ominous, and he's literally just like a guy, and he's like, hey, what's up, like why is our like country in economic ruin, just wondering. And they're like, go away, Simon. You wouldn't understand, Simon. Like
there's like some plot, like so like I remember the first time I watched this when he showed up, because I had watched the first one first for context. So when he shows up, it's at that press conference where like King Richard is reading off these numbers and statistics or whatever. He's like, we promise you. And they all start booing against him. And so Simon appears from behind the working class, like the protesters. And you're like, oh, it'd be cool. I remember I was like, oh, it'd be so cool if he's like leading this unionizing uprising. He's just like, the royals kind of suck and like this kind of thing. Like that'd be a really cool character arc because he's joined the working class. He's going against the royal family. But no, he's just shows up and he's like, hey, can I chill here for a while? And you're like, yeah, sure, whatever. But we're going to make fun of you the whole time. He's like, yeah, that's fine. I'll take it.
I also want to talk about like the blooper reel at the end of the movie. God. Like normally, I don't know if like, I feel like some of those bloopers had to be staged. Like bloopers aren't normally like that because a lot of times they're like doing things and they're looking like directly at the camera. Like they'll like mess up their line or something and they're like looking at the camera and they'll be like, oh shucks, like I don't know.
making movies aren't that fun. It's a lot of work. And so usually if it's a mistake, they make the mistake and then it's like, okay, keep going, keep rolling. We're going to do a second take and we'll just edit this out or whatever. Yeah, it felt like a lot like the 90s way of doing bloopers. You'd watch like Liar Liar or a Jim Carrey comedy of the same like level. And it's just like, oh, here's clearly these bloopers. They shot for the movie because there's even like music to them and it's clearly just a performer having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, normally, like, aside from bloopers, normally, like, an actor will, like, mess up and they'll be like, oh, like, curse word. Like, they'll, like, say something because, like, they're normal people. But, like, even the bloopers were kept, like, so, like, wholesome, like, so just, like, silliness. I was just, like, when I was watching it, I was like, at least some of these has to be staged. Like, these are not, like, authentic feeling bloopers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just, to wrap up this episode, I want to hear some like closing thoughts about A Christmas Prince. You know, like what rating would you give this film?
I haven't seen the other ones, and I'm really confused on like what events in your guys' life has led you to watch all three.
Or I haven't watched all three.
Yeah, I have watched all. So let me go with your rating first, then I will give my impressions, and I'll include in that why I've watched this.
I gave it a 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10?
Yeah,
Okay.
no reasoning. It just, I mean, kind of. This is really difficult. I didn't think this far ahead. The plot would have been better if it wasn't so cheesy and if the actors actually fit the roles. Plus, it was called like The Christmas Prince, but we never saw the guy.
Yeah.
I like don't even remember his face. I just remember he wasn't the most attractive person. That's all I was gonna say.
Yeah. So the reason I've watched this trilogy, oh god, it's up there with Lord of the Rings, I guess, as a trilogy technically. But the reason I watched this stuff is when COVID first hit, I went into quarantine and like lived by myself in like isolation for a good chunk of time. And to keep myself sane, my friends and I would do like Netflix watch parties, and basically like I deliberately created a new Netflix so I could just ruin the algorithm. I was like, we're only going to pick trash Christmas movies and also like low budget romances like Kissing Booth and every Noah Centineo film, for example. And so I ended up watching this, and I have to say that the trilogy does make it better because it is so farcical and it gets so blown out of proportion and insane by the end of the third film. Like I can't even describe it accurately. So it's like a 3 out of 10, but only because some of the performances are laughably bad. And at some point you just have to treat them as cartoons because like they are so comical that it's like it's like watching a Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen movie where you just cannot take it seriously as a film. But as like a hour and a half cartoon, yeah, these are fun. These are stupid Disney movie basically. So yeah, 3 out of 10. It's not offensively bad. I've watched it 3 times, so maybe I'm this defective, but
I thought it was entertaining, like in a sense of like it's just every trope that you could have like combined into one movie, and I thought that was really funny. I also just love the concept of like a country where like everything happens at Christmas,
including vast economic devastation.
Yeah, the entire economy crashed just in time for the holidays. Like I just love the fact that you have like 3 movies, because if it's one movie you can excuse like, oh yeah, they happen to fall in love at Christmas time. But 3 movies, 3 of the biggest events in their life all happen to be on Christmas.
I like to imagine nothing else happens throughout the year.
Hilarious. I like to imagine that they just like sit there like swinging their feet, you know, like they just like sit around and like, what do we do?
They all get knocked unconscious and go to a coma for a year, wake up around Christmas and don't realize it's been a year, so they're just perpetually in the same Christmas.
I don't know. I love that concept in itself. I think it's really funny. I think I will be watching the first movie. I don't know if I want to go to the baby place.
The third one is awesome. Just to see the map. You have to see the map and then realize, oh no, this is like the size of most of Europe.
But I would not watch it again. I'm not going to pull a Casady and watch it 3 times. But I think
fair.
It is at least funny. Like, it was at least a funny thing to watch in a, like, this is so bizarre kind of way. I think this is what happens when, like, this Hallmark, like, movie genre gets so oversaturated that you just keep having to do things to, like, make it a marketable movie. Like, you can't just have, like, a family celebrating Christmas anymore. Like, there's already thousands of movies like that, so they just keep, like, raising the stakes of what's happening in their Christmas movie. And this is, like, just the pinnacle of that, like, full-on economic ruin with Christmas movie soundtrack.
I should mention that the third film, one of the major plot points is the fact that they won't reveal the gender or name of the baby to anybody. That's a major point of contention for the family, who feel like we should know, we should have a say. And they're like, no. That's about a third of the movie.
No.
Yep.
Anyway, I would give this movie a 4 out of 10. Yeah, 4 out of 10. But thank you for watching our holiday episode. I hope the setup was festive, even though the lights have failed us.
I thought that would work for a second.
But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Okay, bye.